Welcome to Beach Nerds. Marcus May, Chris Powell, and Lee Bell. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. What's happening, brothers?
Hey, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
I've actually had a really productive day, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And it's, you're past the Monday hump, so that's always a good thing. And then, hey, I get to hang out with y'all, talk some shit. So it's always a good Tuesday.
I can dig it, bro. I can dig it.
All right, well, let's get into this. We have a dude, Terrance, who has decided that basically he is not liable for his $1 million in back taxes because it is immoral to tax the descendants of slaves. I just need a little feedback on this one. I have a lot to say about this, but I'm curious to what y'all have to say. But I mean, he owes $1 million in back taxes. He's evaded their attempts for more than a year to collect $578,000 in income taxes that he's owed for 9 years. By the way, this isn't something that happened overnight. He goes on to say for 400 years of forced labor and never receiving any compensation for it. Now you have the gall to try and prosecute and charge taxes to the descendants of a broken people that you are responsible for causing the breakage.
Well, and just my take, and I haven't studied it a lot, but he's a pretty intelligent guy. Outside of being crazy, he used to be an amazing actor. He's probably got the money. My first thought when I saw when it come over the wire, I kind of thought, well, dude, I think there's 11 million plus that owe over $1.5 billion in taxes, whether it be $20 or whether it be 200 million. I mean, there's a ton of taxes that are owed, and I feel like they might know or might have been told, play a little game with this. I know he can pay it. Guarantee that cat could pay that check or whatever. And I think that he might be trying to surf a little bit on celebrity just to try to get his name back out there like he's doing. That's just an initial thought.
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, on the flip side, we'll talk about it a little bit. He has he's hit his head a couple times in the past 10, 15 years, and he's got some crazy thoughts, and some. Don't get me wrong, he'll put them out there, and it will be like he's super smart. He's very intelligent, and man, if you listen to it too much, you'll start thinking about it. But
here's one of them. He has a secret system called Terryology,
right?
Where he's figured out that 1 × 1 = 2. And he spends 17 hours a day making nameless plastic structures. And he said, today, this is the last century that our children will have to be taught that 1 × 1 = 1. This kind of gives you a little insight into his mind, specifically around mathematics, which I find a little insane. He also believes that 0 does not exist.
Right.
Which... I have a question. If 0 doesn't exist, then what is nothing?
I don't even think anybody takes his mathematical theories very seriously.
There are people out there, the frequency world, his is based on frequency. And not to get into it huge, and not to get into it crazy, but it's kind of like a DJ. You have beats per minute. And if you're running a certain beats per minute at a time, that's why all DJs are really good, and you stay with them, and your DNA tightens up, and you're sticking with them because they're staying in the same flow of BPMs. Now, if you had somebody that ran out, and don't quote me on these numbers, but if you had somebody running at 106 BPM, every beat's 8 minutes, boom, 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 8 minutes, boom, 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 8 minutes, and then the frequencies of 8 minutes, that's how they get the BPMs. But if they're running 106 and then somebody throws a 154 in there, it's a clusterfuck. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I think that when he's talking about frequencies, and he's talking about, hydrogen being, what does he say? Hydrogen is an E major frequency, and then oxygen is an F major frequency. All of that stuff is absolutely true, but with him implying it into his theories, there are people out there that could get familiar with it and could be on board with him because of the similarities of what he's saying and what he's bringing over to certain, whether it be human frequencies, things like that. Go ahead.
There's one thing I've learned, and I wasn't the biggest fan of math as a kid, but I've learned to appreciate math because there's one thing about math, and math is consistent.
Right.
And math has logic behind it, and math it's just pure logic, so you cannot argue with math. So the fact that you have a guy arguing with math leads me to believe that he's a little insane, just for the fact that, you can't just invent your own math. This is stuff that mathematicians, geniuses over the years come up with. And I'm going to be honest with you, he is no Albert Einstein,
sure,
or he is no mathematician. So for him to have this theory with really no basis behind it, I mean, his basis is, how can it equal 1? If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 times 1 equals 2 because square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2. That cannot be. Here's the thing, though. You can't.
What you have to remember is all mathematicians in the beginning. I am not defending him by any means, shape, form, or fashion. But all mathematicians in the beginning had to go up against this type of rebuttal.
Correct. I hear you on that. I do. I mean, even down to the laws of gravity. I mean,
right? Absolutely.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah. Well, the basis for a lot of his theories are that the things exist in the same universe. From a very little that I've read about his theories, I guess he confronted one of his high school teachers who said there is no zero, right? So the high school teacher said, if you have 2 apples and you give them to B, how many apples do you have? And he said, well, I still have 2 because they're still in the same universe, so they still exist, which I find funny because the reason he left the Iron Man franchise was because he said that he wasn't getting paid as much as Robert Downey Jr.
So the math's not mathing. The math is not math. You can't use one argument and then use it against itself. If everything exists and belongs to the universe, then you can't use the argument to your point that someone's making more money than you. The issue with him is, to Chris's point, I believe a lot of this, it also almost kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the crazy antics we've seen over the years from different celebrities, specifically, and I'm going to pull a blank right now. Of course, I'm going to pull a blank, but of the celebrities over the years that just say outrageous shit just to get their name back in the news. And this does feel similar to that, just to get attention on themselves and draw attention to everything that they're doing, or what they just to get their name back, because their name is everything, right? If you're a celebrity, all you have is your name.
The first time I saw the stuff about the math with him, I looked up, is he about to do a movie regarding some type of arithmetic theory, or is he going to do some sort of historical, something that is going to bring this information nowhere but him, you seeing him in that light before the movie comes out. You know what I mean? Some people kind of do that too. So,
True.
Dude, he's such a great actor. He was a great actor. Probably still could be a great actor. And what he's done is he has ran into something that has some similarities across the board. A lot of people run into these things, flat Earth.
Yeah.
Once you get down to the nails, and come on, you know what I mean? But he's got all these things with these similarities, and I mean, we can talk about vitamin D. How long was it before you realized what vitamin D really was? You take a vitamin D and you think, oh, I just took some vitamin D, and you get into the frequencies of what you take versus the sun, getting into your epidermis, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's scientific shit, and some people will look at it and go, all these similarities, and they go run with it. And some people go, well, it looks like to me, it looks kind of fun to research.
Well, so
You know what I mean?
what I also see though is you have celebrities that use their platform to spread crazy ideas, which in turn get them more followers, but they have credibility because they're a celebrity. And
That's
people
right.
that follow them really do not give a fuck about science or math or anything and don't even put enough research into that to even understand how it works. So they just roll with it. Oh, well, this sounds interesting because the way he articulates it, if you are not extremely educated or care enough, let's just say you don't care enough,
That's right.
it would make sense to you. Be like, well, this does make sense. So then in return, he gets followers. It's kind of like Kanye West. Kanye West has made some outrageous statements. Kanye West has done some outrageous things. The guy's a genius. Clearly, he's made billions of dollars. He's had successful companies. He parades his wife around like a hooker. And I mean, it's the whole thing with him. And, you know, he says outrageous things just to get a rise out of people and just to get people talking about him again. And I think that very much is a game. And especially, let's be honest, with our education system today and the lack of caring because everyone's distracted by everything else other than the important things, people hear this kind of thing on TikTok or YouTube, and it's like, oh, wow. Kind of like flat earth, to your point. Oh, wow, this is an interesting theory. And they have enough facts, per se, to make their argument interesting. And if you don't know anything other than that or never really paid attention to anything other than that, well, you're probably going to buy that all the way through.
That's enough of a kernel of truth. You know, I watched that video of him in Uganda where he's obviously screwing over a bunch of Ugandans. You know, he's talking about the hydrogen electron, right? It's not an electron, it's an element, and how he was layering that on top of geometry. I mean, it's a word vomit sandwich, you know, it is. And I kind of stopped listening after I heard him talk about flying machines that use hydrogen as a fuel, right? Like, you now remember the fucking Hindenburg?
Right.
Nobody does.
I think we, as a whole of us three, and we may be part of the last generations that even care to say why. Why this? Why that? Why this? Explain this to me. Define this to me. It's getting to the point where people, like you said, you know, I think that this is a great theory that he has. I'm getting on board because I loved him rapping his heart out here for a pimp. And I'm going to be with him. And I'm going to spend everything I see. And I'm going to hear everything he's got. You know, I mean, there's more people like that in this world, unfortunately, than there are the ones that will say, what? And get down and really see what's up with it.
What's unfortunate is people are okay with being told what to believe. Like, we see this on a daily basis, and because of technology, because of social media specifically, kids are programmed from a young age, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, because people let their kids on Facebook way too young, to be programmed to believe what they see and what they're told. And it has created this crazy world where all these people have their opinions and all these people have their arguments, and it's just being force fed into your head constantly at a very, very, very young age. So to your point, Chris, you're right. I think we are one of the last generations that's going to truly question things, because you're just force fed it, and you're not talking to anyone. It's not like a conversation where you ask questions. You're just being told because you're watching TikTok or YouTube or Facebook, and you're just being told and fed that information without the interaction of saying, well, why do you feel that way? Or what answer this question about what you're saying. That there is no open forum around that, because it's just straight fed to you.
And I think it's exactly what the fellas up top want to be happening.
So it creates division.
Love it when, like, we say lizard people are banging children.
Exactly.
But hey, like, you know, obviously Terrance Howard is a kook, But like, let's actually get into, his claim. What do you guys think about slavery reparations?
I personally believe that this happened literally in the 1800s. Okay, um, you you are generations removed at this point. It's become a scapegoat, in my opinion. Wasn't like because I was white and born white that I just walked into a bunch of money. I firmly believe that there have been literal laws and provisions put in place to give Black people specifically an advantage or a leg up when it came to the civil rights movement and all that. Why did we pass all that? It was to try to give them a quicker, even playing field, education for free, government support to help you out. That is reparations. What was passed down, just because if you can qualify for school for free, if you can get certain government benefits for free just because of the color of your skin, then I feel like reparations have already been paid back. And that was your chance at making this even, taking advantage of that, and doing something with it. For us to sit back and say, I, as a 30-something-year-old white male, owe you money as a 30-something-year-old Black man because somewhere down the line, my descendants made you a slave. Not you, but your family a slave. How does that even? I had nothing to do with that. That's I don't even agree with that. It has nothing to do with anything. And my parents didn't have anything to do with it. My grandparents didn't have anything to do with it. So yeah, I'm strongly opposed to reparations.
I think they go too far. I just think they go too far because, like, I actually kind of agree, with a little bit of what some of these cats say, right? I mean, there's instances like just before Jim Crow, during Jim Crow, where, I mean, they just walk into a dude's house and say, "This isn't your house anymore." But that's close enough to document it, right? Or you look at like massacres of the years of Black cities. That's close enough to be documented, and that's close enough, that if laws were passed, you could get reparations for something like that. And I think those are deserved. Somebody took your grandfather's house away.
Correct. If someone took your property because you were Black and they took advantage of the situation in the 50s,
That's just That
okay.
that's like when you try
I hear you. That's a little more validity, but to talk about slavery as a reason why, that's where I have a major point. Because honestly, look, man, we could all point to something that's been done wrong to us. This becomes an endless cycle. If we give reparations to one group, we have to give them to all. Except, guess what? The white male, because apparently we've never been oppressed ever a day in our life. And so,
right? Like, look what they did to the Irish during the Civil War, shit like that. I think that the slavery reparations movement, they just go back like way too far back. But I remember like Martin Luther King's quote, and like it really hit me when I heard it. He was talking about just the state of Black people in America. And he said they tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but it's hard to do that when you don't have boots. Like that was to me that one kind of hit me. And like when you talk about actually stealing from United States citizens and those kind of things, like I don't know, man, that twists me.
I think that any type of action like that is just going to promote more action. It's almost like punitive damages. It's, who is going to say this person deserves more money, reparations, than this person, and then it's going to go on and on and on. I'm a firm believer that in the 90s, this is going to stay. This might not stick right, but I'm a firm believer in the 90s. We were so much closer to unity than we are now and than we were prior to the 90s. And I feel like somebody in the government woke up one day and said, holy shit, this is not going the right way. It's going the wrong way for us.
I think we're not off.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my theory? Because I agree with this, but I have a theory as where we went wrong, and I can kind of pinpoint it. Obama. You know, as it should have been a moment of celebration for Black people to say, hey, we have one of our own as president of the United States. We have actually made progress. But since then, there's been more division than there ever was before. And that was almost like the pinnacle point of everyone coming together. And then since then, it just, race became even more elevated of an issue. And what I don't understand is how, like, that was a great moment in American history. We went from slavery in 1860s to a Black president 150 years later. I mean, how is that not progress? And it wasn't celebrated, and it was used in a lot of ways and criticized. And I don't know. I feel like that was a moment in American history that was seized in the wrong way and really, really escalated.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I listened to him twice, and he had me, bro. I mean, I think I liked him. I liked his visions. I liked his ideas. He brought the LGBT community together with, his wife being up there beside him. And, I enjoyed him. I thought he did a pretty good job,
Man, like when you were talking about that, it reminds me of John McCain's concession speech. Do you guys remember that?
I remember some. I wasn't much of a huge McCain guy. But...
Yeah, I was a huge McCain fan. I love John McCain. It was Sarah Palin for his running mate. I thought he would have made a great president. Yeah, we disagree on that. But his concession speech really gave me chills. A lot of people bring it up today, that compare what happened with Trump, to an actual statesman, and but to your, this is a quote from his speech. A century ago, President Theodore Roosevelt's invitation of Booker T. Washington to visit, to dine at the White House, was taken as an outrage in many quarters. American world around cruel and prideful bigotry of that time. There's no better evidence of this than the election of an African American to the presidency of the United States. Let there be no reason now for any American to fail to cherish their citizenship in this, the greatest nation on earth.
I remember that, yeah.
It should have been a celebrated moment, and it should have been a realization that no matter who you are, what the history is in this country, we've righted a lot of wrongs. Nothing's perfect in a democracy or a republic. Nothing's perfect, but we've come a long damn way. Instead of us celebrating that, I agree with Chris. We've gone backwards. 100% gone backwards.
By the way, you guys missed his wife had a pecker joke. It just flew right over you. Obama and his wife, who brought the LGBT community together.
I was smirking.
So it was just a bad joke.
I was waiting to see if there was anything behind it in entertainment. So
I frolicked.
Hey, who's the Jewish guy, the right-wing commentator that's like Super Shapiro?
Yeah,
Ben Shapiro. Yeah.
With him, and like he just like shut down all of these like Black civil rights dudes. Like none of them could speak after what he said. And his last line was, "What? So we are more racist than we were in the 60s? It's worse than it was in the 60s?" Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, my theory upon this also as well is that there's black leaders in this country, the ones that run NAACP, you know, your Al Sharptons and your Jesse Jacksons of the world. Let me tell you something. When MLK got killed, there was a major power vacuum. They saw the power of MLK and how he could unite an entire group of people. I mean, he had over 1 million people march on Washington. He came with the right statement. All he wanted was equality. He didn't want equity. He wanted equality. He wanted a fair chance to survive and a fair chance to succeed in this country. And that is absolutely a fair ask. And there's no one disagree with that. That's why he had such a following of black and white people, by the way.
Right.
But when he got killed, there was a power struggle, and you saw that group splinter off, and you had multiple black groups, black leaders that came out of that group. And I feel very strongly that because of the power that it entails and what comes with that power, that there is factions within the black community that still want to keep this issue alive, or else they do not have a job.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. They don't have a job. Like, they're irrelevant. If race issues disappear today, those people are no longer needed.
On both sides of the table.
Correct. Correct.
Both sides of the track.
100%.
If racism isn't a thing, there's a whole lot of people looking for jobs.
Yep.
If drug addiction isn't a thing, there's a whole lot of people looking for jobs.
Yep.
All these things that are politically driven, all these things that have something to do with who you vote for, they're monetarily bigger than who you vote for.
But unity is not good for any of the powers that be.
That's right.
But
Correct.
you never really think about like the enormity of the task that like the civil rights leaders face. I mean, there was no social media. How did they get a billion people from all over the country with no Facebook?
Well, but that's because
it's insane to me. Yeah.
That's because they had a righteous cause. I mean, the cause that they had was valid.
I'm just talking about statistics.
You know, I'm just saying, but I'm saying,
you're talking about like dialing up a phone and hey, how are you? Hang up. You know.
Well, I hear you, but you gotta understand, this was such a valid point that you told one person and they just ran around and told everyone they knew, you know, hey, here's what's going on. It was passion. There was passion behind what they had. It was real. They felt it. They wanted it. They wanted freedom. They wanted equal rights. They deserved equal rights. I mean, imagine if you were suppressed and one person came up to you and told you about some guy that had been doing great things, and another person came, like, that's how that spread. Now there's a fucking 1,000 groups on Facebook pissed off about something every day. So we have social media and can't even get that united.
Yeah. And unfortunately, man, I wish there was a way to monitor the people that legit care, that legit have something where they can stand on a soapbox and talk about something, not worrying about monies, not worrying about reparations, not worrying about leaning people over to this side and that side, not getting a group paid to travel to a city and start turning people, whether violently or, socially, just turning them to one side or the other. It's just everything is so.
I would love to be a professional protester. Right. I'd love to be like on both sides of the abortion argument. That would be. That would be.
Running from each side of the road, putting on your mask.
Like,
or your vagina, whichever one.
Every true cause has to have a passion behind it. It has to be something people feel. And let's be honest, there's no group in America that truly feels oppressed. You want to feel oppressed? I got a few countries you go visit, and then you'll understand what oppression is. We don't oppress people anymore. I mean, is there biases in this country? 100%.
Absolutely.
There's biases on every side of the color and race and the aisle. There's biases, but we don't oppress anyone anymore, and so that's why you will never have that united level of effort anymore, because there's not one group of people that is just being discriminated against on that massive scale.
Man, look, the arguments that I've had in bars with people over this, like my line is, look, it's not systemic anymore. Okay?
Right.
Jim Crow era, that was systemic. When people couldn't use the same water fountain, okay, that's systemic.
Right.
Okay, now it's no
That's
longer.
flat out.
You
And
can part of
yeah,
this, and you enforce anything that is racial, then you get in trouble. Right? So it isn't systemic, okay?
right.
There's vestiges of it that still exist, but now the laws are written in such a way to protect everybody,
I think it's
regardless of whether or not they do, you know?
I think it's absolutely the most embarrassing thing to the human race that shit like that actually happened. Separate bathrooms, back of the bus.
Do imagine?
And I will say, for me to have some blood that is minutely from the side that did all that stuff, I mean, it's a complete embarrassment. It's all about insecurities. It's all about.
It is very much about insecurity. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Well, we've spent a lot of time on this topic, so let's switch up to something a little lighter, because I do believe that this affects every race in this country, and this is some bullshit.
Yeah.
So, from my research on this, essentially what they're saying is you can only kick an onside kick in the fourth quarter
if you're behind.
And you have to notify the other side that you're doing it. What's the point anymore?
I want to hear from Chris. Chris played football,
My thing is,
I passed high school.
My thing is, when it gets to the point where there are so many rules about one thing, I'd just rather it go away. If I have to be behind, number one. Number two, I have to tell them whatever I'm going to do, no matter, whatever. It's not football anymore. I mean, there's some other rules that we'll talk about. If we're going to kick off and the percentage of us having a run back is about 2%, let's just not kick off. Go to commercial. When we come back, we'll start at the 20 every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the safety. 5-8 years ago when they made the initial changes, I get those. But last year, people got up to go fill their beer up at kickoff. They didn't care, because they know, all right, here we're going to get a commercial because they scored. And then we're also going to get a commercial because it's going to be a touchback. So we got 2.5, 3 minutes to go take a piss, get a beer, come back, and we'll probably still be waiting on them to get back. So these rules, to me, they're not huge rules. They're so unimportant that we don't need them.
Because how many times? I mean, most games, I don't know the percentage, so I don't even know what to speak on this, but majority of all football games you watch in the NFL do not have onside kicks, right? I mean, it's not like this happens every single game.
Yeah, in college, you got those couple of coaches in college that, man, they'll fire off an onside kick when they on the initial kickoff. But they're not going to do it if they have to tell people. Oh wait, hold on a second. Hey, I'm gonna try an onside kick here, or we're gonna do it. We're gonna go for 4th and 5 right here. And they try to spin it up. Well, we're gonna make it to where they can do unbalanced lines, and they don't have to tell them that. Guess how long it takes a linebacker to see you have an unbalanced line?
Yeah.
It's not like you're wrapping it in a gift. So.
Well, my question is, then why do you think they're doing it?
Okay. If you never have anybody run a kickoff back, you'll never have a head injury on a kickoff. Okay. So they're probably just adding more and more and more to make sure that there are no head injuries on a kickoff return. It's to the point now where it might as well just be we're starting at the 20, like I said.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's one of those. I think if it rolls, and I don't have it in front of me.
I have it right here. This is about the kickoff change.
If it rolls into the end zone, you get it at the 35. If it goes into the end zone, you get it at the 25. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a target zone.
Target zone, yes.
Yes. So if it does not cross into the target zone in the air, it will be treated similarly to an out of bounds penalty, and the receiving team will get it on its own 40-yard line. If it goes into the end zone in any capacity, they will now get it at the 35-yard line.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it rolls.
So here's the deal.
And they get
you're decreasing an option of head injury.
I don't know.
And you're decreasing errors. Oh, he picked the ball up and dropped it. Oh, he picked the ball up and dropped it. Or, we're reducing those things to where that guy returning that kickoff, if the ball bounces odd, he ain't got to go try to get it. You know what I'm saying? So if he fumbles, so we're actually reducing the chances of someone coming back, because how many times have you noticed Auburn? They kick the punt up. He misses the ball. Alabama picks it up and scores. I mean, we're also taking those errors that don't need to be, unforced errors that don't need to be, but we're playing it. So, like, hey, we don't have to worry about our guy dropping the ball because they're just gonna kick it and we're gonna start at the 20.
I mean, those are like exciting plays to me.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel like, and this might be an unpopular opinion, okay, but if you're a professional football player in the NFL, part of your job is to get your ass kicked, for everybody's amusement. I think if I went to my wife and I said, honey, I'm going to get paid $50 million, over the next, 8-10 years. And at the end of it, when I'm 60, I'm going to beat the shit out of you and shit in the corner. I get 3 or 4 days. I think she'd be like, cool.
It is weird what women will do if there's elevation of money involved, right? Or men.
Well,
pick up the
my issue though is like, all right, so if we're going to do things in the name of safety, that's all good and well. I mean, I hear you to a certain extent. I think we're taking away from the game very much, and I think the players are signing up for this. To Lee's point, they're not. It's not like they're not getting compensated for what they're going through, and they know the chances of what could happen in this game. But what I have a big issue with is we start messing with trick plays or surprise plays, such as an onside kick. You're removing a whole element from the game that has decided some
big time games. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's probably 8 or 10 that if I had to, I could sit here and on Alabama side and Auburn side have made those games what they are at the end of the game. At the end of the fumbles where you would never think there would be a fumble. A botched kickoff, punt, Bama punt. Oh, and guess what? Punt, Bama punt again. I mean, it's just you're taking the game away. Now, to the player's point, if you take all that away, I don't care. Good. I'm getting another opportunity to maybe not get my head smashed in and get CTE. Things like that. So, and if they were just saying, hey, look, we're not kicking off anymore, to me, it'd be better than just going through the bullshit.
Yeah, and hey, let's not forget about the humiliation onside kick. You know,
Sure,
we've seen that so many times where it's like, 52-3, and the onside kick and picks it up and runs it in just to be like, fuck you,
I just think it's part of the game, man. It's part of the game, and a lot. If we're not careful, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to have a 25-minute long football game.
Yeah.
And they'll be playing 32 games, and you'll get a 12:30, a 1:30, a 2:30, and a 3:30.
Yep.
And the NFL will make more money.
Well, that's honestly what I'm seeing some of this go, because now the push is to shorten the length of the game. So if you take out some of the random surprise and the like the onside kicks that possibly might extend a game, or you take out some of those trick plays and you remove those, that shortens the game, because that's what the NFL wants. It's what college is starting to want as well. They want that like 2 hours or less, and it's all for ratings and it's all for money. So this is now kind of evolving into an argument around money versus safety. And that's where I'm concerned about this, because
those 100,000 fans that come every Saturday to watch your football's going to do, if they come and watch an hour 45, 2 hour minute game, they're going to maybe do it once or twice.
I know. I hate it. It's just it's unnecessary. To your point, I feel like it's unnecessary. Either you just eliminate some of this and call it a day, or let's come up with something better to change rules around. I mean, why the kickoff? I mean, how 90% of the time it's probably a kickback.
Well, that's probably what they looked at. That's probably what they said. They said, look, let's dig into last year. 90% of the time it was probably a kickback or whatever it is, and shit.
Now, for the precision of the game, which I feel like that's the other aspect too, is they're trying to go for a precision type of game, like showing precision in a game. And I think I could see a little bit around the kickoff rules, around the fact to make kickers more precise, so they have to land a ball in a certain area in order not to get penalized, kind of like they do now. If you kick it out of bounds, you get a penalization, kind of similar with some of the rules that they were mentioning. I'm not necessarily as opposed to some of those type of rule changes, trying to make the game more precise, but I'm still a little confused around how all of those rules are spelled out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
This for ice skating, and I was a Raiders fan in the 90s.
It'll be all right. I mean, the XFL had a little bit to do with inspiring one or two of them. It'll be all right. I mean, when they really start messing with you, when it's you're only allowed to have one sack per series, or you can only throw 2 balls within 10 yards, and then all the other ones have to be. When they start getting like that, I'll be gone. I won't watch it anymore. It's just ridiculous.
And then another league will pop up that'll be successful. That'll just make it completely no rules. It'll be a lot like that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, so I think we got time for like one more. This is an issue that we've seen a lot of lately. At least I've read a lot of articles around this in the news lately. Squatting. This seems to be coming in. I mean, I've read stories about someone that, could not get someone out of their Airbnb for over a year. We're talking a multi-million-dollar Airbnb in California. Now we have a guy who is refusing to leave someone's house, $2 million mansion that is refusing to leave, that they purchased. So they own this house, purchased it. He's refusing to leave, and now his friends are defending him, saying that he's a great guy, and he is caring for his infant.
It's on a ventilator, right? And the child's like, is it terminal? Is the child terminal?
Do not know.
No, his lungs didn't inflate on birth. He's on a ventilator. Oh, he'll
Okay.
be all right. But it's a $2 million mansion.
Right.
Yeah, and the guy is renting out rooms in it.
Oh, is he really?
Now he's making money off of these people's property.
I mean, there shouldn't be. This again. This should not be, and something we're going over. It should not happen. What we should see is $2 million man who was squatting get hauled off, and his kid's doing well in a some sort of human services or hospital or whatever, and he's got to pay back this much money in profit where he was renting out the rooms, and he's got to charge now. I mean, I don't know. Squatters, I don't get that word. I never understood it.
It's been a pandemic with like all of the anti-eviction laws.
Sure.
Got away our ability to make money, so they didn't want everybody to get thrown out of their houses. They didn't actually do anything to those people. Because like they could still rack up the debt when they couldn't pay their rent because the government told them they couldn't work.
Right.
The day that it's like, oh, so now you owe us $24,000. Yeah, and then the eviction things lifted, and that's where it started with the squatting. This guy is like claiming bankruptcy, and I guess this house was his permanent residence while he was looking after, giving care to the original owner.
Sure.
So that's where this one gets sticky.
And then the original owner promised him he could stay there as long as he needed to. That's not. I don't think that's in writing, but I mean that's just the words of a dead man. So.
Yeah, well, the ownership passes to the estate. The estate's
yeah.
Now we got new owners, and it'll have to make its way through the court system. But I mean, these fucking assholes.
I mean, I pulled up another article around this because this is happening frequently. And to your point, I think there was some laws passed trying to protect renters, and rightfully so. There's some asshole, owners out there that take advantage of renters, and so I think they were trying to give renters rights, trying to give renters rights that they have something to stand on, but they are now getting exploited. I mean, you have this guy who's refusing to leave a $2 million home he once worked for, but basically just, leaving the owners out in the cold. You got in Georgia, you got an owner who left to care for his sick wife and returned and figured out people moved into his house and changed his locks. He's not allowed to kick them out. I mean,
whoa.
Right.
That happened?
Yeah.
That's a problem. Oh, dude. Southern states, there are some doozies, my friend. We probably could have a whole episode on 6 or 8 stories that would blow your mind.
No, this is a story. A Georgia man, and I read about this last week. He been caring for his sick wife. He returned home. Squatters had changed his locks and moved in, and the local laws are blocking him from evicting. They broke into his house. So they broke into his house, changed his locks, moved their stuff in, and he cannot even kick them out.
I would have been kicked out when I got there. I'm just being honest with you.
That's insane. Like if I showed up to my house and somebody had changed the locks, I'd pull my little Caltech KSG out of my truck. I would hit in the fucking door. I would just kill every motherfucker in my house.
Yeah. Well, and that's and by the way, that is lawfully right.
Well, unless they slip and cut their hand on something, and then they can sue you.
But you also have the right to kill them in your house. So there was that. So this goes both ways. I mean, these people are probably a little more timid around doing that versus probably something like we would do. But I mean, to your point, I mean, if someone's in my house, at that point, I consider them an intruder, and they are threatening me in my own property, and I have the right at that point to defend myself.
That's right.
Is what's great about stand your law grounds. That's one thing I do love about them. It gives you that right. They get abused too now. They get abused as well. But you know, it's insane that we got to this point where I'm seeing these stories on a weekly basis of people literally taking over people's homes, locking them out of their own home that they paid for, and then the government cannot do anything for them. You know, at what point do you take it in your own hands? I mean, at
Okay.
what point do you need to take it in your own hands?
Like, this is why you need a
crazy.
tactical assault shotgun.
It's a
Okay.
crazy world we live in, y'all. I mean, it's a I guess we lost them, but it's a crazy world we live in. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys hear me now?
Well, I guess
We're
that
good,
wraps it
bro.
up. We lost one of our members, so you know.